ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of MovieByte podcast. I am your host, Ruben, and with me, my brother in arm, the Russian, and our special guest today, evening, wherever you're watching this show, Matt Graham. How you doing, Matt? How you doing, Russian?
I am good. I'm very excited about this podcast. I'm really excited to bring along our good friend Matt, who is gonna be joining us for this very special podcast because we're gonna be discussing a movie which usually tends to be more favorited as a winner, as the movie which is mostly liked. But I have a little bit different approach to this movie concept, and I'll get to that in good times. But Matt, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us.
Appreciate it. I've heard you prepared a lot for this podcast.
More than I usually prepare.
Yeah.
This is the time when I will be like, listen, guys, it's time to sharpen your pitchforks because I'm sure you're going to be coming after me. After I say what I have to say, there will be my rant about what I dislike in this movie. And probably at the end of the show, when, we will discuss all the good things about it first. So this is more like the good, the bad, and the ugly show. Yeah.
All right. Well, a little bit about this movie. 1917, released in 2019, directed by Sam Mendes, who is the director of Skyfall. It was one of his most notable work. He also has done American Beauty, which is one of his award-winning films with Annette Bening and Kevin Spacey. And this movie won a lot of awards during the award ceremony timeline. Golden Globe Best Drama. Surprisingly, was the favorite to win on the Oscars that year, but Parasite took the award for Best Picture of the Year.
It was a heavy season for that.
Yeah.
We had the Joker in the running. We had the Parasite. We had 1917. That year was for movies, it was one of the best years.
It was a great year for movies. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it was very hard to choose. Yeah. So basically, this movie is about, it's set during World War I. It's set around two soldiers who are assigned pretty much a race against time to deliver a message to stop 1,600 men from walking into a deadly trap. So it's a journey about two soldiers going through enemy front lines and putting everything in their lives to get this message delivered to save thousands. You got two people willing to sacrifice their life to save 1,000. So this is pretty much the main concept of this movie. This movie received a lot of buzz during the award ceremony time is because how it was shot. It is shot like if it's one single continuous shot throughout the entire movie. It's a very nice technique that it can fool the viewer if you don't know what you're looking for as far as cuts goes and everything. So it's a very unique way that they filmed this movie. It's pretty much, it brings you along on the journey of these two characters that you see throughout the story of the movie itself.
And that's the reason why they took the best cinematography. The way that it's portrayed, you have a feeling like you're a third character in the movie. It's very unique. It have not been done before to that extent, where the entire movie, you following, as you mentioned, these two protagonists through their entire journey. You feel like you're right there with them. At some point, you're in the back seat. Sometimes you're in the passenger seat. The way that the camera rotates and gives you the feeling being in there. And it's not as direct as like something like, what's that movie? Like there's something Henry. Ruben, help me out with it's just like a first person.
Hardcore Henry.
Hardcore
shot with a GoPro camera.
Right. So it's kind of similar to that, but it's not. The camera never paints away. It does take its distance, but it's always present in a way that you do not have those views from the distance, and that gives you that sense as a viewer that you participate in this journey.
Yeah, it's a very consistent shot throughout that movie. There's a level of consistency that Deakins has when it comes to his style, and that's something that we'll end up talking about at some point. I think it's cool. It's a very cool concept to approach a movie like that.
And it works. Like there's a lot of movies which try that and they fail, but majority directors who do that, there are few who has done this before. There's the Russian director who did this with his movie. I'm not gonna name it, but like for majority of the people, they don't know it, but it's the banquet in St. Petersburg, where it's like 2 hour one take. It feels like it's one take. So
in the past decade, like I feel like the only other movie I can think of is another one by the same director.
Which one? The Birdman, right? Were there a few scenes the same director who did Gravity? We're not gonna go there, but just saying
that's another one too.
Yeah, you guys are talking about what's the name? Emmanuel Lubezki, cinematographer for Gravity, Birdman, and The Revenant.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Revenant. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And so there's been approaches. Even the last one, I believe that was a Netflix Extraction, where they took like the action scene and made it into like a 15-minute shot. Although obviously we know it wasn't shot on one take, but it feels like it was done in one take. But it's very rare. There's only few cases where the entire movie feels like it's been one take. Even though in 1917 they have a cut in the middle where the camera paints to black, and then it kind of like revives the character back to his second part of the adventure. But still, overall, the goal here was to have a viewer engaged in a storyline through the not really a first person perspective, but the companion of the protagonist. Like you follow them from the beginning of the journey when it starts to the end of the journey through like sort of kind of single shot, if you may.
Sure.
And it's a fantastic idea, and it works in this movie from that perspective. I'll give you that.
Now, for everybody that's listening,
that's all you're gonna get.
No, I'll give you a lot of other things, like the music. There are scenes where in the beginning, when they start kind of on their adventure and they get their mission and they start walking through the trenches and the music like picks up. Yeah. It's a gorgeous piece. The sound mixing again is on point. There's a lot of things that this movie has done right, and that's why it's such a high score, because all these components, they trick you, they fool you as a viewer. In my opinion, again, this is just my strict unprofessional opinion. The elements which draw the viewer in, they are there, they exist, and they blind you from the real problem. It's and sometimes maybe it's American mentality, throwing the grenades out there, that you don't want to see the problems when everything is peachy around you. So yeah, cinematography great, sound mixing great. The storyline, that's when we'll
go into that.
We're gonna get into that later. Yeah.
So everybody that's listening or watching us, so we're talking about the photography, and then Matt mentioned the name Deakins. For those who are wondering, Roger Deakins is the cinematographer for this film, for which he won the Oscar for Direct and Achievement in Cinematography that year for 1917.
Second Oscar.
That was the second Oscar. First one was for Blade Runner 2049, which is my personal favorite.
Yes.
Of his work. But he has been nominated 15 times and he's only won 2 Academy Awards. And it's amazing because he has done
bad hit rate.
Great films like Sicario, Prisoners, Skyfall.
Yeah, that's right.
He's a freaking collaborator with the Coen brothers. He's been the photography director for No Country for Old Men, Fargo, True Grit. He's worked with Sam Mendes before as well. And then his first work was The Shawshank Redemption. That was his first cinematography credit.
I mean, every movie you mentioned, it's classic in its own right. It has everything you want from the movie to look perfect. This guy, he crafted his work to the degree where there's no debate. Like, he's one of the best. Like, there's no way to deny it, and I'm not going to at all. I feel like this is a beautifully shot movie, and that's why it pains me. that's the reason. But anyway, moving on. What is your guys' take? Like, it's a war movie. It's something that hopefully none of us will ever experience. It's very brutal. It tells you the story of the war. Was just the battle. The war is still going on, but the battle is kind of was there, but it's gone, and it's been gone for just few minutes. Like, we've seen through the eyes of the lens and through the adventure of these characters. I don't know if I couldn't call it adventure. Maybe the mission is a better word. You see the post-war, like, next minute. You see these dead horses, which is brutal. You see the corpses of men with the rats coming out of their insides.
You see the soldiers exhausted, tired of fighting.
Absolutely, yeah. It's there's no. I mean, movies who portray war as something glorious, I don't think they exist, and if they do, it's just stupid.
There are movies out there that portray war as something glorious. They exist. And it depends, and also depends on the vision of the director itself.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything special or, like, I don't know, at least something that anybody would want to experience in this movie at all. Like, from the moment of being, like, taken out of your rest from underneath the tree to going straight into a mission, like, this is a very uncomfortable and very claustrophobic movie, which I definitely want to touch on at some point. To me, like, claustrophobia is like a very good word for this, for the way that this is shot, at least.
Right, because you locked in into the view of the camera, and that's a very good point you brought up. Is you as a viewer, you can't escape. Like, I watched that movie yesterday, and trust me, I wanted like to have some kind of glimpse of kind of get me out of this view. Like,
sure.
I mean, I have an analogy.
I think it's perfect that you feel like that, because I'm pretty sure that was the intention of Sam Mendes as a director, is to have the viewer be part of the mission, the journey, because it's not an adventure, it's a journey. We got two Lance corporals, right? Two and the bottom of the ranking soldiers who are willing to sacrifice their lives, to deliver this message. And as a viewer, you're feeling that you're part of this mission with them, right? Yep. So, being with you, I watched the movie yesterday as well. It's the second time I'm watching this movie. Me and the Russian saw it together in theaters when it came out. And it was my wife's first time watching the movie because she wanted to watch it. She's now, ever since we started this podcast, she sits down and watches movies with us, so that way she can have some input and give me some opinions of her vision.
That's his guilty agenda. He just wanted his wife to watch movies he likes, so he created this podcast. Well, this is when the truth comes out, people.
Come on, shut up, man. She listens to this shit. Come on. She can't know the secret.
All right. Let's go.
But anyways, so as we're watching this movie, like, I already know what's going to happen, right? Because I obviously seen it, but she hasn't. And I could see how deep she was in this movie, that she would react to moments in the movie where, for example, one of the Lance Corporal Blake gets stabbed by the German pilot. Like, she reacted to that, And it's good to see that, because if you're reacting to that, it's because you are part of the movie. You feel like you're part of this journey, and you're feeling the reaction of what the soldier's feeling at the moment he's getting stabbed, right? Another point that she reacted a lot, and she's like jumped scared, is because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's when Lance Corporal Schofield is in the abandoned house, and he comes across a German soldier, and he gets shot, and that bullet ricochets on the helmet and knocks him out. She got surprised at that too. And then one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the chapel that's burning, right? You see Schofield walking towards this shadow, and he doesn't know who it is until that shadow starts running towards him and pointing the gun. And she reacted to that too. She's like, get out from there. Like, she's like saying, like, get out, start running. Like, what you doing? You don't know if he's bad or good, right? And it's amazing because that's exactly what the director wants you. It's for you to be part of this story, because again, we're giving characters that are not important, right? They don't have an important ranking, right? You don't have to feel like, oh, he's a commander, he knows what he's doing. They're giving you guys, like, if me and you, for example, went to war, like, we probably would have been the ones picked to do this. Like, hey, you're collateral damage, deliver this message.
Sure. But at the same time, like, they're very low ranking. Mm-hmm. I think as we start to discuss this movie, it's something that's important to mention is that there is a ribbon mentioned at some point for Schofield. Yeah. Like, he does have some sort of recognition for what he's done in the past. We don't know what that is.
But he traded that recognition for the bottle of wine.
Correct.
But that's his thought on war. And why he tells you, like, that's a character. You don't know that much about him.
You let him speak. Don't defend him. He brought it up on himself. Let's go. Come on.
This is what I have to deal with every time.
And why he brings that up? Oh, well, he doesn't bring it up. I'm sorry. But that is his explanation for not having it or for not showing it.
Right.
So there's a level of modesty that comes from his character, which kind of carries on throughout the movie. And that's something that I just wanted to put as like a side note.
Right. I mean, he was not really fully convinced to go on this mission from the get-go.
He didn't have a choice.
Well, technically, I mean, it's a gray area. He couldn't, because at the beginning it tells.
But you say no to a brother.
Again, we're not in that position. It's like you putting me into crossroads. If the train is coming and you have to even save your family and kill one random guy, who do you pick, right?
Sure.
Me, I don't know. I don't know. I probably would ask for the bottle of vodka and fucking let's go.
I don't think any of us know.
Right. But in this scenario, it gives us, as you mentioned, that this guy is in a crossroads with his own personal dilemma. Like, why is he there? And he constantly flips and tippy-toes from like, oh, don't worry, we're going to be home next week, and then he's like, we ain't fucking going to be home. From going, oh, listen, we should talk about this because we going on this mission. Let's wait till dark. Maybe it's going to get better, right from the first like 10 minutes. And then they get to the ladder, and he's like, he said something, I don't remember the correct quote, but it was like age before beauty. And he crawls out first. So there's the dilemma which he's struggling with as a character within himself, right?
Sure.
And that's one thing you can kind of explore it, but again, I'm gonna get back to that, but the story starts ignoring it at some point. Well, it brings it up, like that's your guys' floor until I start my 5-10 minute rant about the soullessness of this portrayal. Yeah, please go ahead. Bring some flowers to this.
So Matt, like what are your thoughts on the movie? Like, what did you see? What did you experience when you watched it the first time?
So something that I noticed, like right off the bat, I had a feeling that this was important. But the way the movie starts off, they're sitting underneath a tree, and I don't know how I felt about that at that moment, but I just kind of took note of it. And as the movie progresses, there's a lot of mentions of trees throughout the entire movie. There's a lot of portrayal of trees throughout the movie.
To give you a little bit extra detail, they have a slight conversation about the different trees which were in Blake's garden, which his mother took
cherry
care of.
trees. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so those cherry trees, that was the second mention of trees, or at least, thematically, a portrayal of trees.
So what are they supposed to represent in your view?
I don't know. And that's the thing, is like, something about a tree is very, when you're resting underneath it, is very comforting. At that point in the movie, they're not in a very comfortable position at all. And the state of those trees, even though they're very beautiful and they're still more or less blooming, they're all cut down and more or less ready to die. There's something very interesting that he mentions, is that even though, these are all sliced up, is that within time, whenever the stumps rot, there'll be even more trees at some point in that area. And you kind of go through this movie, and at some point you will see the arbor, which is a Kust, or where he's looking for. Like, that is the sanctuary of like a lot of trees. And then at the very end of the movie, there's also some symbolism there too, which we'll cover, I'm sure. It's just something to mention. I don't know exactly what the point is of all that, but I don't know.
You're trying for somebody else to figure it out.
I'm curious.
Like, I'm throwing it out there.
I just noticed it.
Right. No, I mean, since you mentioned it, the only thing I can bring as also the thematic thing, that the trees were cut down, and obviously they're made as obstacles, on a kind of the road, which again we're gonna come back to. But the Germans, on their retreat, they cut those trees down to make whoever would follow them harder. So I guess in a sense of the movie, they had more time to execute their plan of fortifying their defenses or attack points when the British would advance.
Or at least sending a message.
I mean, again, like, that's
as far as the trees are concerned, I feel like it was a message that was sent. Right. The same thing with the cows. And in the movie, you'll see that when they're traveling through the countryside, there are a lot of dead cows everywhere.
Right. But there's the first cow is alive. When they meet the first cow, it's out there, and there's a bucket of milk.
Yeah.
There's one. There's one cow.
There's one who survived. The rest of them, done. No cows for you, British Army.
Just one.
And then also, after the cherry trees, I forgot to mention this. The tree that's in the middle of the road. I don't know if you guys.
And in the end, you mentioned it, like, he walks towards the tree, and it could be symbolizing like his character's journey from when they started by resting, under the tree. Now he's the one who's gonna go and kind of leave all of this behind and start over, and where he promises Blake's brother that he gonna write his mother and tell her how wonderful his son was, and that he saved his life. But overall, the overall story, it kind of has the purpose, and to me, that the director is showing the war is ugly. The war is ugly on every single level, and it's been done before. That's my only complaint about that, kind of like thrown out. And whoever gonna be making movies about war, it gets, with time, it gets repetitive. Like, I mean, sure. Steven Spielberg did Saving Private Ryan, right? That's in American history, like, of cinema. I feel like that's one of the go-to movies. And obviously you mentioned like the Red Thin Line, and then we got Apocalypse Now, and we got Full Metal Jacket. Like, they're movies about war and ugliness of it, but each one of them has something added to it. It has, like you mentioned, like something poetic and something very sad, but
I agree.
hope and beauty. Here, I'm sorry, guys. I did not find any hope, and I did not. I mean, there was not beauty for me. But if you have something in your mind to speak up, like let's discuss it. Let's go into.
So when you say you didn't find any like hope, like what do you mean by that? Like,
I mean, it was all for nothing. Like the whole journey was for nothing. Like they stopped the attack, the advance, but in reality, like if that attack is actually happening, like, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, when you get bombarded by artillery in 1917, you go back to the trenches. Like you don't run forward. This is not Braveheart. This is not 1600s where the people ran at each other, right? So that attack should have been called off immediately as soon as the first artillery bomb dropped. Okay, so to me, him making to the colonel, what was his name? Mackenzie, I believe.
Colonel Mackenzie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So to get in there and then calling off the attack, I mean it serves the purpose of the mission accomplished, but it does not provide to me that mission was really important. And I'm gonna get back to that.
Sure. There's really no context beyond I forget the character's name, but he explains
Schofield?
That I'm sorry?
Schofield?
Yeah, so there's a commander that explains to Schofield that Mackenzie is just in it for the fight. That's right. The only context that you have for this character at that point. And
sure, but like my question to you guys is like, what do we learn from this movie? What do we take from it? Besides which we talked about, like cinematography and the sound mixing, it's all there. Like we cannot take that away. But like as a work of art, as the 8.3 on IMDb, as such a nominated movie, where's the lesson, or where's the beauty, or where's like what draws you to this movie to recommend it to somebody else? Like
I mean, like I mentioned to you earlier, is like the claustrophobia of it. It's a very restricting point of view, and what's kind of interesting from my point of view when it comes to cinematography is that this was a movie that was shot with a very specific set of equipment. They used a camera. It was called the Alexa Mini LF. It's a very lightweight, large format film camera. And 99% of this movie was shot on one lens, which was a 40 millimeter. The other two focal lengths were 47 millimeters used for the river scene, and then 35 when he was in the basement, I believe, in that ruined city. So it brings it back to like the consistency of Deacon's shot throughout this entire movie. Like there's a very defined theme. It's supposed to be one shot, and at the same time, they shoot with one lens for the most part to kind of give this effect of what I feel like is claustrophobia. Like it's a very restrictive point of view throughout the movie. I think that's pretty cool. It's also interesting to think about the other parts of like how a movie is shot. And if you guys want to go into it, when we talk about color or camera movement, like there's some really cool nuggets in this movie. And I'm curious to know like what shots, like Ruben or Alex, like which ones did you like in the movie? Let's put story aside, but in terms of like how beautiful or interesting these shots are, like let's discuss shots in general.
That shot right there, that's one of my favorite ones in the entire movie.
So that shot reminds me of Diablo 2. Like when you dropped into like this hellhole and there's lights, but there's so much darkness and everything is freaking
Is it hell or is it purgatory?
I mean, it's
like Dante's Inferno kind of stuff,
right? But it's like you're there and there's no escape. And the next thing out of that shot comes out,
like the way the light moves with the flares is just over.
Sure.
Over. It's like just anxiety over.
Oh yeah.
And over and over again.
Oh yeah. My first shot, which took my like breath away, was when they're crawling through this. I guess it's like a
mortar
dugout,
artillery shot, like hole.
A bomb crater.
Right.
Yeah.
So bomb crater, and they crawling on one side, and the camera like moves in, and like nicely like kind of follows like you like
right over the water,
just
like,
inches
right
from the water. And
yeah.
I mean, in my head, I understand how it's made. Like you had to get the wire and get it across, but it's
not just that either.
Right. No, I'm sure.
Involved, like
right, and then
it's a very complicated shot.
So that shot was spectacular, and then the jump to the river, right, when he's running away and he jumps and the camera like follows him through everything. And I mean, it just, one thing I'm gonna say about this is there's a subreddit called Praise the Cameraman, and maybe I got a little bit spoiled, but seeing what people can do with the camera and how creative can it be, you can't really like point out the single shots anymore from movie, even this one. But overall, like as you guys mentioned, the complexity and the creativity on that aspect, yes, it is mesmerizing.
Yeah, this is my other favorite shot.
A lot of the movement in the camera shots push this story in a way that it needed.
And in a way you ignore the storyline.
Yeah, it makes you forget about things, which is kind of you're more curious about like, holy cow,
right? How they do
going from here to here.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like it's a magician who tricks you into like this magic trick, right? There's a beautiful assistant, and you put it in,
misdirection.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it played so well. And I mean, at some point, I'm gonna just be blunt. Maybe they did it on purpose. Maybe they wrote this story so poorly that it was for somebody like me to fucking say it like and call them out, and they will come out and be like, "This motherfucker."
I mean, it could be because
Sam Mendes wrote this movie, right?
Like, I know. Yeah, and that's the point. And they got this.
What? I'm gonna look up what other writing credits he has to say.
Original screenplay who got nominated, okay, and it only got beaten by Parasite, which is beyond comprehending complex.
So Sam Mendes only has one writing credit, and it's 1917.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And let's keep in mind, like this movie at the end of the movie is dedicated to his, I think it's his great grandfather or grandfather.
Right. The stories he told, right?
And it's based on stories he told. So that's why, again, we have like you said, probably it's a poorly written movie because he's just.
It's a collage of the stories that the grandpa told him, right?
Exactly.
And maybe grandpa heard from somebody. Again, speculations. But just to draw parallels with you boys, Gravity has the same concept. It's the something which we see. Okay, and we experience it, right? And what Coran did there was, listen, I know how I want to shoot this, and fuck the fucking story. All right, here you have Mendes who was like, I know how I want to shoot it, I know how I want to present it, and fuck the story. So that's the two correlations I'm trying to make. Okay, yeah. So if you dislike the story in Gravity, I'll get to the story in here. So apparently that
is that a hit on me?
No. I'm not pointing fingers.
Probably on me.
Yeah.
No, not at anybody. I'm just saying, like, if if you felt that the Gravity is an empty movie when it comes to the story, which I brought up a great fucking storyline behind that, I couldn't find one in here. And it was not just to give back, shot at Ruben. No. It was something which already existed in my mind, because I told you since the first go on this movie that there's something not right. It does not sit well with me. Like,
but not to cut you off, but the first time you saw this movie,
right,
you hated it for other reasons. You disliked it for other reasons.
Well, mainly I disliked it because it gave Joker less chances to win the Best Picture.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
You just wanted me to admit to
I wanted people to know that the first time you saw this movie was because you wanted to see what was the hype about it.
No. Let me make it very clear.
Okay.
There was something I disliked about this movie originally, and it was there, but I could not pick it slightly what it was until I watched it the second time, which we're gonna get to that part. And then obviously to give better story than I originally could for disliking this, I just threw the Joker under the bus. I was like, fuck it, I hate this movie because I love the Joker. Okay. And again, I do not hate anything, but
dislike. That's why I changed my word to dislike.
Right. If I had to pick between two, from one viewing, I would not even go into direction of 1917, right? If I had to pick between Joker and Parasite, that's a very tough choice. Till this day, it's probably the toughest choice I would have to make if I would have to pick which movie is better. But those two strive for greatness the more you dig in them. This one falls more into the garbage pile of dirt when it comes down to the storyline, the more I dig.
So does the story mean, I don't know, we kind of talked about this a little bit before the podcast, but there are a lot of like themes that you can kind of pull from this movie.
Sure.
Regardless of what the storyline is.
Right.
Do you find that those themes, and these are religious themes, do you think that they're important at all to the storytelling of this movie?
So me and Ruben just started watching this documentary which called QAnon.
Mm-hmm.
QAnon is the phenomenon which has been created online where you just throw random shit and you misdirect people. Okay. Same here. You can pull from any movie, you can pull up, and I do it all the time. I'm the guiltiest motherfucker out there who will, if I like the movie, I will grab to something and I will build my case around that aspect. Great example is Gravity. Is the movie garbage? Maybe, probably, but there is the aspect which I like, and I'm gonna pull every single thing that I can to make my case.
You're gonna ride that shit until the day you die.
That's the hill. And here it's gonna go opposite direction, where I hear what you're saying and I understand what you're saying, but then unless you make a compelling argument, I'm not gonna go and dig myself. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna showcase my perspective from the storyline perspective. And if my storyline perspective to me has more flaws than I can make excuses for, then it's a rabbit hole which we're gonna fall down to together and see if any of us can escape it.
You've got a lot of ammunition saved up, aren't you?
He's like, he wrote a fucking thesis.
So my question to you, and I mean, we could go into this, at least Ruben and I, about like why we love the movie.
Yeah.
A lot of like really cool shots. There are a lot of very memorable and stylistic shots that are
I agree. I completely agree with all of those aspects.
But I'm curious as to what broke your willful suspension of disbelief in this movie. What is the first thing that I'm no longer in it? You know, like that kind of made you snap out of the story.
And it starts from the beginning. Like the problems with this storyline starts from the beginning, and it snowballs so badly that the final line in the movie just it makes sense. If this would be a literature lesson when you read the poem, or back in the days when we had to read the poems and make your case for the poem, this would be my case.
Okay.
And if I start, I was just gonna have to I'm just gonna give it all, and you guys can judge it the way you want it. But to me, I could not watch and enjoy anymore all the magical things that we described as soon as that darkness consumed me as a viewer who wants to see a plot which makes sense from the aspect of logic, from the aspect of choices, from the aspect of how I supposed to care about these characters and how their choices would make any sense. Like, to me, if you make a choice as a character, right, there's a B, C, D options from that choice to have a reaction, action, reaction. And everything in this movie, it just randomness. It's a convenient plot holes. It's like, it's, to me, this is as bad as the Game of Thrones. Like, and I'm gonna go fucking there. Like, I'm gonna tell you that this script is as bad as Game of Thrones, if not worse.
In what way?
I mean, if you want me to start the rant, I'm ready. But
I'm curious. I feel like everybody's very familiar with why they like this movie, and it's a very unpopular opinion that people don't like it because it is very beautiful, but at the same time, like you mentioned, it's kind of soulless. So why?
Because overall, I did not get the satisfaction from anybody's arc, right? The character, it did not had the protagonist that I cared for, first of all, right? In a movie, you either have to hate the protagonist for it to be good, and really and again, let's not do the word hate, but dislike him to the point of this guy is so cringy, so bad, but he either makes sense or he just doesn't make sense and we eliminate him. I mean, there's something, there has to be an order, okay? There has to be a balance. In a movie, you're going to have a good and a bad, and either good wins or bad wins. There's a very rarely movies where the bad wins. I mean, rarely. We're talking less than 5% of the movies end up where technically the bad side wins, right? But in order for you to make that statement as a director, you have to portray the bad in a way that it makes sense. In the same way, you have to portray the good, which makes sense. I give you an example of latest Star Wars. None of that shit makes sense. They fucking abandoned the whole storyline. It's the good person won, and then at the end she's like, what's your name? I'm Rey Skywalker, and we're supposed to fucking weep. Get the fuck out of here. You wasted our time, right? But at least there's a try here. I do not cheer for anybody. The dumbness from the mission to the explanation of the mission in the first 10 minutes sets me back. But I say, let's give it a fucking try. Let's see where.
Why do you say that? Let's give it a try.
Because I'm an optimist. If I watch the movie, I give a director, a writer, and everybody involved a best possible.
So
overcome.
Let's talk about the mission then. All right.
Okay.
So the discovery of the mission, which I don't see anything wrong with. I have this feeling that, this is something that could be plausible. Two random dudes, privates. Hey, We got a job for you.
All right, let me riddle you that. Why was the guy picked? Because he has the brother in the Blake. So originally the colonel, whatever his name is, corporal.
Lance Corporal Blake and Lance Corporal Schofield.
So Lance Corporal Blake is being picked, right? His name is Tom. Let's just call him Tom or Blake, whatever is easier for you guys.
Okay.
So Tom gets picked, right? They like, hey, listen, let's go. The general has a mission for you. Okay? Pick a person. Like, pick somebody. They don't tell him what they picking the buddy for, but sure, let's pick a fucking buddy. And he's like, hey, so he gives the hand to him.
You're right next to me.
Yeah, he gives the hand to him, and the guy, without even opening his eyes, he already reaching, like he knows that the hand is there. All right. Like I'm not.
Maybe there's some sort of like
connection. Yeah, like
or connection, but maybe that's just how things get dealt out as far as orders. Go get some rations. Okay. Go get some water.
Okay.
Pick someone to help you out.
Okay. So why he was picked, we don't know yet. Okay, but he's been.
They're buddies, right? Maybe they're.
Why Tom was picked? Why Blake was picked? Like we don't know it yet.
Okay.
Until it's explained into the, and we're gonna skip all the cinematography. We already talked about it. So they walk and they talk about how both of them are fucking hungry. Blah blah blah. Apparently, they've been hungry for a long time, but they have.
They're looking forward to a chicken dinner.
Sure, which never gonna happen. But they get into the general's quarters, and the general is like, "Listen, boys, like, here's the map. So we see the two dots, right? Here's one spot. This is where we are. This is where the Colonel Mackenzie is about to attack retrieving journals. But, you know, they're not really retrieving. They're going to fucking post their positions 3 miles out and going to get this attack demolished. And in this attack, the Colonel sending 1,600 boys to do so, right? And we cannot prevent this from happening because the telephone lines has been cut off. All right. So here's my question to you. One, since the telephone lines have been cut out, how does he know that the Germans are retrieving? How does he know that the colonel is about to attack? How the fuck he appeared there with all this knowledge? All right. So that's my first few questions. And you guys, you can start writing the questions because I'm not stopping. The rant began. All right. So, but apparently some of the boys told him that this Blake is good with maps. So, and since we know that his brother is in a different platoon, different division, that we should send him because he somehow qualifies. It's his brother, and
he has a lot more motive to get moving.
Yeah, but so the motive versus skill level is going to be over. It's going to be more prioritized. All right. And then we're going to rest the souls of 1,600 men on the success of these two dudes. And we kind of know that the Germans are retreating. But again, are they? Maybe not. Because the next scene after the general gives them some fucking wise words and tells them to fuck off, gives them some provision, gives them the fucking map, which they never fucking use. There's no compass, whatever. So
there's a compass.
There's a compass. He pulls out the compass in the barn.
He never fucking uses that shit.
He
uses it.
He does use it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sure. He does use it. All right.
I think at this point,
let's stop you there before you start going down this road of like, what the fuck? So your first objection is
this is going to be a 2-hour podcast, but I'm fine with that.
How does this general know? How does he have the map or the idea of like where everything is? Okay. And my answer to you is like, in World War I, like this is the advent of like aerial photography. Aerial photography.
Okay.
So, or at least aerial observation. Uh-huh. And this is something, there's some evidence of this in the movie, at least, where when they cross over the line, Schofield notices that there are two planes going overhead and they're friendlies. They're flying very low. Like, the only reason you fly very low at that speed and in that direction across the line is just to observe and report. So I think the information of, where the Germans are, that's explained in the movie.
All right.
At least hinted.
Fantastic drop in. You maybe battled my first two theses, but still, how would they fucking land? How would they drop that information? What they taking pictures of? How do you see the German movement? Still, question to believe. But let me move forward, okay?
Maybe they run those sorties every 4 or 5 hours. You never know.
So
it's harder to hit a plane than someone on the ground.
Cool, great. Because if we're gonna do it sentence by sentence, we're gonna be here till fucking tomorrow, which is fine. All right.
You're the one with a million fucking observations about this.
I mean, that's my thing. Like, if I start digging, like, there's just a lot of dirt comes up.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, let's move on.
So, what about like the telephones are cut off? Like, where does that come into play? Like, why couldn't So why couldn't the same guys who flew over, right, took the area shots, or like if they can safely land and they can safely take off to provide that information, they can also safely go down to the other side of where the Colonel McKinley is and drop their fucking shit, right, and tell them, hey, listen, the Germans are advancing, so. You see, if we're gonna go that route, we're gonna be spinning the wheels fucking forever, which is, I guess that's why you were brought in for this fucking podcast. We're still in the fucking. I feel
like if you
we're still in the third line of my.
This, I would go into like researching it because I feel like there's a reason. Like maybe that front is hard to get to. Like maybe there's no way for a plane to land in that area.
All right.
Maybe the pigeons weren't flying in the right direction. I don't know.
All right. Let's just whatever reason we picked these two boys who have capability of reaching that part because Blake knows the maps and Schofield is his buddy, which they obviously did not care who he picked. Okay. All right. So again, they did not care who he picked. They put all their eggs in the basket that the Blake is going to be the one who's going to deliver the message. All right. And we know how that fucking turned out for Blake.
I think the reason that they did that was because he had so much emotional connection, like right off the bat, to execute that mission. Like, sometimes skill is useful, but if the person doesn't have the will to do it, they won't. Or then maybe they just won't care as much. And if that message is worth a brother's life, they would put him in that position to go forward and like travel that distance to find him. That's why I think that they had chosen.
Okay. So that's just the beginning of it. Like, you realize there's going to be like...
I'm sure.
All right. So the next thing we go through is that they given the instructions to follow the trenches, like they are named after the streets, which is fine. That's okay. And they given the letter that they need to give to the lieutenant or the major who is guarding this post. By the time they reach that point, right, they pass through some of the wounded ones, and the Blake gets into the little scuffle with some of the soldiers, and then he has this look on his face like he's just like this hurtful little kid, which as an actor he does not sell it to me. But we're not gonna go into the acting details. Like I just don't feel that
really
that would have.
I feel like his mind is somewhere else during that entire sequence. Like he's not in that trench. He's already over the trench and moving through the wire.
All right. So they get to the guy who he needs to deliver the letter to, and the guy is dead. Like he got killed 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So they walked for about 100 feet. All right. And the lieutenant asked them, "Are they the patrol who will take over?" Right? And they're like, "No, we're not." And he's like, "Well, when are these guys coming?" They're like, "We don't know. We're just coming from the general's fucking headquarters, but we don't know." These motherfuckers who are sitting there, they don't even know which day it is. They like, what day is it? They like, "Oh, it's Friday." Like, "Oh, this motherfucker thought it's Tuesday." Ha ha ha. But like,
I mean, it's just the reality of war there, you know?
Right? So you couldn't walk the fucking 100 feet to figure out what the fuck is happening, who's in charge, who's changing you. Like you sat there and slept and was guessing for which days. Okay, reality of war. All right, moving on. Let's not, because this is gonna take fucking forever if we go that route. All right, so fuck it. They give him the flare gun and tell him not to lose it because these are precious ones, and if there's Germans out there, which we don't know if they are, because we don't check during the daytime. But if they're out there, throw the gun back because we may use it later, and we will pick up your bodies after the night.
Yeah.
So these motherfuckers go over the board. There are no Germans known to us yet, right? The Schofield gets his thumb cut up or his hand cut up on the barbed wire.
Barbed wire, yeah.
I mean, great. Like that just tells me this motherfucker is prepared for this mission. Like he fucking couldn't even.
It's an accident. It could happen to anybody.
Prepared for this mission.
Yeah, sure. Fucking, he gets cut off on a fucking barbed wire, right? That's fine. All right, I'll buy
You're
that.
nitpicking anything you can so you can like convince us to dislike this movie.
I'm not convincing you.
Do you think
anything.
that particular part of the movie was just overdone? Like there was no reason for it.
I'm watching it the way I'm watching it. All right.
Maybe he did cut his hand in the bar when it wasn't scripted, and they had.
If
to
we're gonna go by maybes, then we can go all night long by maybes, because this whole plot is based on maybes, and that's my problem with it. Like, maybe the sky is fucking pink.
So let's pause it here. In that moment, from when they go over to the top and they're walking through the wire,
right?
How much time passes? And this is why I think you start to see small things like that where like, oh, I hurt my hand.
20 minutes.
It's because it needs to fill time. Like this is a movie that's shot in a way that's supposed to be one shot, right?
Sure.
24 hours.
So 20 minutes has passed so far.
Correct. So there's
20 minutes in the movie, this motherfucker already punctured his hand.
And I think it makes
shows
sense.
that he's a fucking imbecile who can't fucking even pass the first obstacle. All right.
Maybe it's really nerve-wracking to be on the wire in the middle of the day.
Then you should have stayed fucking in the trenches.
Okay, maybe he's nervous. I feel like I would be nervous.
Sure.
I'd probably be really uncomfortable.
So right there, you punch your hand, stop going, go back. Get some medical support.
It's an act of cowardice if you go back.
Okay, but this is the reason I would not go back. Is because, so I don't have brother. I don't have a brother. You guys do have brothers.
Yep. I would not go anywhere with my brother.
I feel like
fuck him.
The term brother. If I had a brother and someone that was really close to me that wanted to do something very important to them, I'd go through with them. I don't know why. I mean, I don't even know if I really would in that situation. But
so do you know or do you not know? Stop dancing around. You going forward or not? You got punctured.
I think I would.
So you puncture your hand right there in that scene.
Ouch.
You keep going. All right. All right. Fine. Keep going. All right.
That's part of the story.
Next thing we find out is there's a bucket of lit ashes. Like these ashes are still smoking. There's still fire in it, right? And we know we're not in the fucking,
And this is after
Athens
going
of Olympus,
over the line.
Okay? Yeah. Going over nice shots, like a few minutes later, after you all jerked off to
Telling
the
a
fucking
funny
cinematography. Yeah, wait. No funny stories yet. We're not getting even there.
There was a funny story between what you're talking about with the hand.
Which funny story was there?
Farm.
Which did I miss?
So Blake was talking about another soldier.
That's later, bro. You fast forward. Yes, it is. I'll bet you $50 right now that story happens.
Before the farm. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
The ashes were in the trench.
So there's the ashes in the trenches, and their decision is to go into this bunker / tunnel, whatever. Right. Like couldn't crawl out over it. I guess they couldn't, which they had to go into that because that's what story tells us. Because climbing over a fucking 6 feet gravel wall, which they've been doing so far, is beyond their comprehension. So they go inside this bunker and they find some food. Great. They find some big ass rats, which been running there for all the duration since the Germans left, right? Because we see the rats before that crawling out of some body parts of the corpses of the soldiers, right? So let's not be like this rat just magically appeared there. No, it didn't. It was there, all right? And yet the wires for the fucking grenades are already set up, and they only go off just for the cue, for the script to work and get all the gravel on top of the Schofield.
Yeah, maybe.
So the dancing ran around before they didn't pull the trigger. So convenience.
And that's a good argument. And at the same time, before they go into that bunker, like, what do you see behind them before they go into the bunker?
I was too busy writing what I was seeing. What do they see? Tell us.
So there's a collapsed trench. So, I mean, that could be the result of...
So they even stupider than I thought they are. They already seen the fucking collapsed trench, but they decide to go to another open trench. All right, so you just encouraging the stupidity of these two characters, which I appreciate that. So next thing, right?
Maybe it's not stupidity, but anxiety. Maybe it's...
Oh, so they exhausted. They 20 minutes
find the shortest distance to their mission.
Sure. Okay. They 20 minutes in. They already exhausted, according to your word.
They've been fighting in a war for days and weeks and months.
Okay. They should have fucking passed on the mission. But
you can't. If you have the orders from your high-ranking officer, you can't dismiss that.
Could have maybe questioned that. Why
you can't. It's war.
This is not Russia. In Russia, you could not question that, but in the air,
that's everywhere. If a high-ranking officer sends you in a direct order, you can't be like, "No, I don't want to do it."
Sure. Okay.
So there's that, and your familial connection to this person.
So we're still 20 minutes in, okay, on their journey.
We're still 20 minutes in, like 30 minutes ago.
Okay. I mean, we can cut this shit in twos because
continue.
We already full episode in, but fuck it, nobody gonna watch it anyway. So these guys get blown up, and the only Schofield gets buried, and now he's blinded, and now the tunnel starts to collapse. So now we're gonna have a fucking blind long jump.
Are you blaming the collapse of the tunnel on Schofield too?
No, I'm blaming them both because whoever fucking decided to go into the tunnel, that was the stupidity of their decision. All right, we're out of the tunnel. Let's be fine. We're out of the tunnel. We exited. We are good.
Stupid to accepting the mission.
We are good. But no, we're going forward, right? We're out of the tunnel.
We have to. It's a movie.
Hey, they're stupid for drinking the milk on the cow.
Continue.
They haven't drank the cow, and they never will. Let me tell you what. So moving forward, right, they have that conversation, which is supposed to have some kind of feeling for me to get connection to these characters, right? About some dude who got fucking oily hair, about some rat who bit his ear off. That's the story that Blake tells Schofield. All right?
Yeah.
That's fine. All right. That's a great story.
You had a better one. If you were in that scenario, you had a better one.
Yeah. Tell us a funny story.
Yeah. Tell me a nug joke.
A little harder than it seems, right?
No. I can tell you millions of jokes. It's not. But right now, it's easier to be on your side of the of the couch, which I'm glad that I prepared this all. You know, if I would be fucking lost in this, it would have been like I would be backtracking and hustling, because if I tell you the knock joke, this is gonna take fucking 3 hours.
Continue. Continue on the stupidity of these two soldiers.
Sure.
All right, so you got the hair story and a bit in the ear, right? And then we get to the trees, which you mentioned before, and then these trees have to have some kind of connection to Blake's mother, and he remembers that he has a mother, which we all do, but it's a sentiment which I'm gonna let them slide. But okay, we get to the house. All right, we so far into this, we're about 40 minutes in. They got to the house. All right, so if you said they're on a mission of getting to the brother, why the fuck they stop at the house? But they stop, you know, even though the Schofield has, I do not really like this house feeling. Why? I don't know. There's some fucking ragged doll on the floor. But the feeling is that he does not like the house. Never explained why he doesn't like the house. He does not give us a slight idea. But Ruben can say that it's foreshadowing that this is going to be the end of Blake, this house, this farm. But before the end of it, they go out and they see this open barn with the cow in front of them, and then there's a bucket of milk. All right, somebody just milked the cow, left the bucket of milk, ran out of it in a hurry. Is it Germans? Is it the owners of the farm? We don't know. We don't care, because fuck it. But this motherfucker takes out the flask and starts, you know, pouring the milk. At least he did not use the infected fucking gruesome hand which he barber wired in the first 5 minutes of the 15 minutes of the movie, since we've been precise. But
did he not?
It wasn't his right the hand? Spout on
he
the
used
bucket.
No, he used another hand, which is fine. Well, not really. Right, he uses the left hand, which is still gross as fuck, but okay.
I thought it was his right. Okay.
Well, we each have the hand we use, but we're not going to go into that one. Anyway, so the story about this is, why does he have a fucking empty flask? They've been on the road for 40 minutes. None of them ever taken a sip, but this motherfucker has an empty flask. So
because he used it to wash his dust off.
Yeah, he emptied it.
He emptied it out, cleaning his face.
Oh, you see the first.
You're starting to make no sense.
Theory. The first miss in my theory. Okay, so he has an empty flask.
I believe there's a lot of misses. Your damn theory now. I don't think you were prepared for this mission, sir.
Okay, so that aside. All right, so we get the empty flask, right? We pour the empty flask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is where we're gonna go now.
Mm-hmm. We caught you.
Brought it up.
Good for you. Excellent. Like if I would have given the whole rant and all those spots were coming into as a comments, would have been easier. But hey, fuck it. You know, this is where we're rolling.
So do you have a problem from him drinking from the milk or something like that in this scene?
So he gets the milk, all right, in a flask, which is going to become very important later on, because that's how the well scripts are written. And at this point, right, out of nowhere, we see the two fighters which are on our side, and our side is the British Army side, who are gunning down the German plane. And that German plane, again, conveniently lands into the barn where these two characters are. Moving the plot along. You buy it all. Like, it's fine.
That the camera is always in front of the actor.
Sure, but we talked about the camera. Let's talk about the plot. So, all right.
I mean, we established it's a sloppy writing. It's Sam Mendes' first writing credit. He wrote it based on stories that his great-grandfather told him about World War I.
All right. So, okay. So the plane lands. It's on fire. The German guy survives, right? They try to help him.
It catches on fire.
Which word did you not like there?
So when it lands, that's when it like catches on fire.
Okay.
Which to me, that's a gap in the story. It's like, why is this thing like automatically catching on fire for some reason?
I guess you stepped in on my side, and here I am, the fucking stabbing the heart.
So
that's
let's continue. Like we're already an hour into this.
We're
not
even halfway through the storyline.
Okay.
All right. Should I just really quickly go through the steps?
Just tell us
just
which are the ones that you like worstly like you like. Okay,
all right,
this is fucked up.
So first of all, right, the next scene is by far not realistic. There's always the moral code between the people who fly the planes, the pilots, and the infantry. Like the people who fly the planes, the pilots, they are treated differently than infantry. The guy who landed there would first of all never attack because he would have fucking surrendered and just moved on because he's defeated, right? The guy without the wings, surrendered. But he didn't. He, for some reason, attacked Blake, killed him, which gonna took 5 minutes to fucking die. Anyway, this is where my biggest problem starts, all right? This was a 50-minute trip and a 5-minute death, all right? And he's dying for 5 minutes from the wound. We just discussed the movie where the guy got shot in the stomach and couldn't fucking die for 2 hours. Okay, that joke aside, is during this time I'm with that character and it's supposed to feel. And yeah, it doesn't, because so far I have not attached myself as a viewer to this guy. I attached myself to the cinematography, I attached to the music, I attached myself to the way the story is told, but I have no desire to feel bad for this guy. He was stupid. All right? And that his death is there for 5 minutes. And yes, we do not, talk about the soldier deaths in that manner, but this is not the soldier. This is the fucking movie. All right? So that was the ridiculous death in the plot. All right. Afterwards, during that death, and I believe that Matt Graham pointed, this aspect is where the trucks came over and the soldiers appeared in an instant after the death scene.
Yeah, that was a hole for me. Like, how does this entire caravan just kind of sneak up on you?
Yeah, I agree on that. Yeah.
Like, just out of nowhere. And everybody's pissing on the side of the house. Yeah. Like,
well, they didn't like the house too. Remember how Schofield said that they didn't like the house?
They just piss on it?
Yeah, that's like...
Fuck you, house.
Exactly. Yeah, all the houses full.
I was a big fan of the house.
Yeah. I agree on that one. Even my wife brought it up. It's like, wait, were they there all along? Like, when did they get there?
So this is the problem with moving through the no man's land. How the fuck you move it with the cars, right? And if they had cars, why didn't they just send somebody to drive around and give the message to the colonel? Like, why did they send these two boys if there's a fucking clear path? Even though afterwards we find out there's no clear path because the Germans start cutting the trees.
And there doesn't seem to be a clear path. There doesn't seem to be a lot of good communication between anybody about anything. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know if that's intentional, but that seems to be realistic to me, especially a century ago.
Sure. Yeah. But not it's, these guys were sent to crawl through the bombs where if you like the holes from the bombs where if you fell down, you're never going to get out, because that's the premise which we're given on the first 10 minutes from
there's a really good reason why they chose only two.
But then we contradict if there's a way to drive around everything, and then there's these two who need to get to the fucking point. So which one we're picking?
So for me, like the idea of sending one or two people makes sense to me, because even that lieutenant in the trench before they go over the line or go into the wire says, you can travel faster when it's just one of you. Like he mentioned something like that. When it's just one person, you can cover more ground quickly.
You can jump in the river and be carried to your destination. I'll get to that part. Anyway, so okay, let's just keep rolling. because I'm sure we're boring everybody who's fucking still there, if there's a single soul.
They probably lost you the way we already called you on your first bullshit, but yeah.
I mean, one bullshit out of many bullshit. That's not bad. That's not a bad fucking record. Like, I'm sure I beat Trump on his first presidential fucking.
Continue, because you're not convincing me that this is a.
Do you have anything to say about like the ruins? Like, so if we're going to talk about
this is the person I need to follow through. All right, they drop him off. They give him a ride. They drop him off at that city, Ensor or some name like it starts with the E, all right? From that city, all I know is that the general gave him the southeast directions, 1 mile. You're going to find the division you need to go to. You're going to have the colonel to stop the attack, all right? If they trying to save 1,600 lives, why couldn't they fucking give him some more soldiers? But yeah, if you brought up the part that one travels faster, sure, but they're a fucking mile away. Like, from that city, you're literally mile a fuck away. All right, so this guy goes in and engages in that shootout with like fucking stormtroopers, because nobody hits anybody in this movie. But until he runs up the stairs and fucking gets shot in the fucking head. Gets shot in the head, but there's a helmet, so he survives, right? And I'm not gonna even bring the Indian dude who was in the fucking truck without the helmet, because he has a fucking turban. And I have no problem with there was a Indian army during the 1917 war, which
that's actually a goof in the movie, and I'll agree to you that that's not accurate with World War One.
I mean, there was an Indian army.
There was, but he would have been with the Indian army, right, not with the British soldiers. Yeah,
and without the fucking helmet. Like, yeah, I mean, I respect everything about your religion, but fucking please put on the helmet. There bullets are flying. All right. Anyway, passing through, he gets knocked out. He wakes up. He's confused. He's concussed. All right. He needs to go southeast for 1 mile. All right, it's night. Those phenomenal scenes we discussed, great, they're there. He walks out, he sees this guy he doesn't know, German, not German, friendly, not friendly. Obviously the German guy points out the gun, starts shooting him. He runs away, conveniently just one fucking step, and he's in the basement with some nice young lady. The German NPC stops chasing him. Fuck this scenario. Like, I'm going back to drinking, because we just retreated from our positions. All we're going to do is take cover in this abandoned, broken down city, which we're going to fucking just drink and, I don't know, whatever, have fun with each other. And then we find the girl who, like, whatever that 5 minutes of that story is, great. If you guys enjoyed it, good for you. That story already lost me, so that was a fucking hell for me.
You've been lost in this movie the first 20 minutes. You already established that.
Sure. All right. So here we are with a girl with a baby, which needs milk. And by the way, the baby is a girl, because Schofield automatically assumes that that's a girl without, like, I mean, it's a baby. How can you assume that? But then again, we're not picking everything apart.
You can tell.
How?
You are.
You can tell if a baby's a boy or girl by just looking at the facials.
Okay, fuck it. In the dark basement.
Continue.
Sure. Anyway, so the baby needs milk, and here we go. Like, we're gonna give the fucking milk, which was conveniently left by some strangers on a farm. Okay, great. Like, that should play. Like, we needed that part in the script. That's 5 minutes of whatever. Fucking again, convenience, coincidence. Fuck the baby, because the bells are ringing and I need to go. She tells him to stay. He's like, nope, gonna finish the mission. So he runs out, and now there's a bizarre fight between him and a German and a puking guy, and then like shootouts against stormtroopers nobody can hit. He runs. It's dark. He jumps the river. 2 minutes later, it's a sunrise, the quickest sunrise I ever seen in my life, since we go in for the timeline. Movie, like, fuck you, like, that's not how it happens. But the river carries him exactly southeast. He gets off the shore. He crawls over some dead bodies. Again, the echoes of war. Seen it, been there, not personally, but cinematically. He goes to the guys who sing in the song, and that's a 4 fucking minute song. Like, I fucking clocked it. That's a 4
song.
Between a fucking 4 minute song and 5 minute death, like, that's your 15% of the movie, all right? Of your cinematic fucking historical event, you have 5 minute death and 4 minute song. All right, moving on. All right, fuck the song. I need to get to the platoon. hey, we are the fucking platoon, but we are the seconds. We the main guy's already out there. Oh, I need to find the colonel. So he runs out there. The artillery already shooting. Okay, so the stupidity again, like stop, go back. Like you're not gonna reach them. You're not gonna run out there if the German artillery can reach you on your getting out of the fucking trench. Like you're not running forward. Nobody gonna survive. All right. So without even him getting to the Colonel Mackenzie and calling this shit off, it's already been called off from the first blast. But yet, no, they all run forward for this cinematic view of him running and bumping into, and it's gorgeous. I'm gonna tell you that scene.
An accident too.
An accident.
Yes.
It wasn't scripted.
We're all gonna use left to right to fucking describe that scene. It's magnificent. All right.
Come on.
I mean, I'm almost there. So he runs into the colonel. He tells him what the story. The colonel like thinks about it and then calls it off. Blah blah blah. We got whistles blowing before the Schofield leaves. Colonel gives him some fucking wise words and tells him to fuck off, which is pretty much everybody who is ranking officer has been telling to Schofield for the entire fucking movie. Some wise words and fuck off. So now he's like running through the trenches, getting to the Blake's brother. The wounded been gathered in 2 minutes. I fucking clocked that shit. Like all the wounded from the field, all the runners, they've been already gathered under the ambulance tents or whatever, medic tents. They already there. They like the doctors already fucking. This needs the lung transport. This needs the fucking 2 new balls. Like they things are working. 2 minutes later, right? 4 minutes song. 2 minutes later, everything good. But no, let's not pay attention to that because he finds Blake's brother, right? And here's supposed to be the culmination of these events. This is where this all comes down to. Well, he tells him that Tom is not here. And there's a key fucking phrase. The last phrase that the Schofield tells him is, he died very quickly.
That's it. Which is a lie.
He gives him the rings and goes watches the tree, okay? And I'm 2 hours into this bullshit.
So why do you think he lies to him?
At that point, I couldn't care less.
We lost him 20 minutes into the movie. He spent the rest of the hour and 30 minutes nitpicking every single scene.
Okay, so Alex, you've had your say. Ruben, I'm curious to ask you this question. So whenever they're at the barn, right after the plane crashes, and Blake is stabbed, Blake asks Schofield, "Am I dying?" Mm-hmm. And he tells him the truth, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that's pretty hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know that I would do that.
Yeah.
So, and this is something that I kind of thought of is like, why does he tell the truth to Blake, but lies to his brother about the death?
A good thing. I would say, I think he tells the truth to Blake because, he's living that reality, right?
There's more of a connection there too.
Yeah, right. He's holding him as his arm. And at this point, he's like, am I dying? And like, you're not going to sugarcoat it. Yeah, you are dying. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to try to make you like, you're bleeding out. You're not going to let me talk. The reason I think he lies to his brother is to save him from the details of how his younger brother died. Because he's trying to, whatever the situation, he's trying to make sure that everybody gets attended in the medical tent. And the last thing he wants, this big brother of Lance Corporal Blake, is to think about the way his brother died while he's attending other people that are injured. Right? He's trying to save lives. So I think that's why he tells him he died very quickly. Because look, he died. Move on. Keep doing your job. That's why you're here for. And then that's the reality of war. Like, you sign a contract. You're a military soldier. You're there to do the job. Everything else around you is collateral. That's why I think he lies to his brother, but he tells the truth to Blake when he's dying in his arm, because there's no way to sugarcoat that. Yeah, you're bleeding in my fucking hands. You're bleeding out. I try to get you up, and you can't move from here to get you help. It's like, yes, you're dying. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, I would never want to be in that position, but if I was presented in that same situation, and I know for a fact, like, hey, he's delusional at that point too, because he's starting to, like, you're losing that much blood that you're starting to, like, lose it. And he asks, am I dying? Like, he knew he was dying, but at that point, he was already gone. And that's why he was like, yeah, you're dying. That's why I think that he told him that.
And also, Alex, I know you mentioned time a lot. Like, there's a big disconnect in terms of time. But honestly, like, I feel like you were seeking that out. After a certain point, you were looking for it. You were looking to pull out your stopwatch.
Sure, of course.
But for me, like, that, there is a lot of compression of time that kind of worked for me. And it helped me more going into it. And maybe this is a part of your argument that this is all a big magic trick. It was promoted as a movie that was, supposed to be one take, or, maybe two takes at least. And I think that there's a good reason for that.
Because it works.
Compression
it fucking works.
Yeah.
That my point is that the tricks that cinematography pulled, it not only tricked every member of audience, it tricked the fucking members of the Oscar Academy who gave this script the best original nominee. Okay, but like, after I said everything, you can start picking it on the opposite side, but none of this makes sense overall. You can start doing bit by bit.
I mean, yeah, I'll agree with you.
What the cinematography tries to get us is that this is one continuous shot. Let's just not do one. I mean, not two shots, but one, okay? So the time is of the essence. And yet we spend 5 minutes, and I did pull my stopwatch because now we're not talking about the movie as a whole. We're going by details. Because if we're going to talk about cinematography and the sound mixing and directorial guidance, now we're going to talk about the plot and how all of these elements combine, right? And it wouldn't be an 8.3 and such a praised movie if it didn't work. And I do not disagree with the part that it works. All I'm disagreeing is that one rotten element of this story, which I presented to you, and you guys still found even like holes in my fucking philosophy. But I'm just the one man who kind of looked at it just for the second time and presented this argument. All right. And for the majority of the parts, still they connected. Somewhere deep inside of your heads, you were like, I hate him, but he still makes fucking little bit of sense. Same way for me, this movie, it connected, but somewhere deep inside, I fucking hated it. So when I started digesting it, when I started digging in, because this is what this podcast is about. We digest movies. We go in and we fucking dig, right? We either dig for the goods or we dig for the bads. In this case, I had to dig for the bads, and it did give me any pleasure. This was the worst experience I had with the movie in the longest time. Like,
so the first time you watched it, but on a level from 1 to 10, how much, 10 being the worst,
right?
How much did you hate it?
Like 4. Like
4.
Didn't hate.
Second time?
4. Second time, it's a strong 8.5. And I feel like if I watch it one more time, I'm gonna crank the volume to 10, and I'll be like, this was the worst thing that I could have done, because I'm gonna find.
That's how I feel about The Fifth Element after watching it like the 7th time.
You see, and like, we've been talking for a long time, and I personally have not been so much satisfied with our like conversation / podcast, but it have turned it into the conversation fucking about an hour ago. And like, the things that every one of us can bring, the way we experience movies, I think that's what make movies magical. That's what it makes special, right?
Let me ask you something. Do you have YouTube Premium?
No, I don't even know what
you like watching ads.
No,
I don't think I don't either. I feel like this movie to you is like an ad, like a Super Bowl commercial. It looks cool, but after you watch it the second time, you're like, "What the fuck is this? I don't care about Doritos."
I wanna skip the ad. Yeah.
Like
maybe like have some truth.
You can appreciate the work for what it is,
right? Yes,
but because it's all of this information, all this story in such a compressed amount of time,
right?
It loses all meaning to you.
Exactly. Like if I cannot justify the story, and it could be just one character doing something right, that I can reimagine the rest of it, like it works for me. Unfortunately, this one just it doesn't. And this is when my mind spirals from something a little bit good into like this tree of good, from something not satisfying into this disappointment. And yeah, like I'm not perfect human. I'm just telling you, like I deal with extremes, and only Sif deals with extremes. Like it's either fucking good or it's even fucking bad.
All right. Well, final thoughts on this movie. Matt, what are your final thoughts on this movie?
I thought it was really cool. There are a lot of things that I find interesting about Roger Deakins as a cinematographer, and how simple a lot of his how simple his style is in terms of the equipment that he uses. Like color palette is pretty much the same in a lot of his movies, and I think it works really well to tell a story and kind of support that story. Those are things that we probably could have gone into and made into a 3-hour podcast.
We can do second part. Fuck it.
We might have to revisit this as a 2-parter in the future.
However,
we can talk about the Blade Runner next.
I think I look at this movie and I completely gloss over the story, because from my point of view, I'm really just thinking about how it's done, not why it's done. You know, when I look at a painting, I don't really read into what it's supposed to mean. I'm more interested in
how it makes me feel.
Made. No, how it was made. Like for me, the movie itself is just kind of like, it's cool. The story's all right, but what captures my attention is what I'm seeing visually.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with Matt.
So you would be like the Picasso type of character. Like you would be like, hey, this I want to wonder how this guy painted this painting. I don't care what the meaning is behind it. I don't care what the story of this painting says. Like what was the technique, right?
Yeah, technique is important. I think the reasoning behind it is also important too. The story about the painting, though.
No, not about the painting. What does that painting? What kind of story does that painting tells you? Like that's my point. Like, okay, I'm gonna make the last fucking analogy, and I was trying not to make this one for the longest. I was debating if I can make it or not, but I'm gonna fucking throw it out there.
Okay.
To me, this was like watching a fucking two girls in the cup, and then the camera was stuck in the fucking cup. All right, like that. So yeah, thank you very much. So,
all right, look, this is my final thoughts.
Oh god.
For me, like this movie is more about the presentation. I've never cared about the story even the first time I saw it. I agree. There's a lot of gaps in the story. There is a lot of inaccuracies in the story. But for me, it was just how it was made, how it's presented to you. This picture of war, of World War I to be exact, because it's one of the fewer wars, that you see in media now. The World War II has had a bigger impact, right? But seeing like this new take, this new presentation, like, hey, this is what a day in World War I looked like, right? On anybody's perspective, not on these two particular characters. So that's why I don't really care about the story. One of the main reasons I bought this movie was because I wanted to watch it in my big screen TV at the highest resolution possible, because I wanted to see how it was presented to me. I'll be honest, I've never cared about the story, and that you did bring a lot of points about the story that are very inaccurate. But again, it's Sam Mendes' first credit. He's not a writer, never been a writer. Like, you can tell by his filmography, like this is his first movie that he ever written. He's good. He's a good director, period. Like, clearly writing is not his skill. And again, I think this was more of a personal project that he wanted to fulfill in honor of his great grandfather, which he dedicates to film at the very end. Like, this is a personal product he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not his best work, but it's personal to him, and that's what made it the way he made it. Yeah. That's my final thought on this movie.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time preparing for this movie. Yeah. Preparing for the shots, and like this has a connection to like the equipment that was used. Like, one focal length for 99% of the movie, all the blocking more or less for a wide shot, medium, close up is all going to be the same. Like, the amount of preparation that goes into shooting a movie like this, like, you need some sort of standardization. And it just so happens that using one lens and making this claustrophobic point of view and forcing the viewer into what you want to see works on a production side of things. Not only.
So let me ask you this: from the technological aspect, like, this was shot like so professionally, so beyond at anybody's level, that's why this movie stands out to you.
It was done simply too, using high-end technology and like the latest toys out there.
Right. Okay.
But it was very simply presented to people, and I think that's something to appreciate. And I appreciate Deacon's simplicity in his like color palette, like the focal lengths that he chooses, the shots that he has, that he likes to present to people. There's something just kind of, I don't know, visually pleasing about them. And I think Ruben and I agree on this.
Wait, I agree on that too. Don't get me out of the fucking club.
You don't know, because you're hung up on the story.
You gave up on this movie 20 minutes into it.
No. I agree with everything you're saying about cinematic aspect of this movie.
Sure. Your point is the story doesn't do it for you, and that's why the movie
and that brings you out of it.
Yeah.
Correct.
No matter how beautiful it is.
Correct.
Which is how I feel about Gravity, to be completely honest. Visually, yes, I can say I enjoy it, but the story doesn't do it for me, and that's why I dislike Gravity.
Magician in my trick used the double from The Prestige, and Magician in your fucking disguised his own twin. Spoiled another fucking movie for you, motherfucker. Still listening?
All right. So that's it. Let's wrap it up. That's it.
The last podcast ever. Fuck it. We're done.
This is the longest podcast today, but we had lots of fun. So again, we've been talking about for the last hour and a half, most likely, for 1917 by Sam Mendes. If you haven't had the chance to watch it, take a look at it. Have your create an opinion on yourself based on the movie. If you like the story, if you don't like the story, if it's more of a technical aspect from you, like me, Graham, and Bykovs agree, just let us know. If you don't let us know, that's fine too.
And this was one take, by the way, too, guys. Like, this was all done in one take.
Yeah, this whole podcast is one take. Again, so 1917. So next week, we will be talking about one of Russian's favorite movies. Which one is it?
Back to the roots. This is gonna be In Bruges, the movie which spiked the career of the beautiful director who gave us wonderful hits. And we're not going to go into details today. We've already been through a lot of details, especially from my part. Apologize for that, boys and girls, but had to do it. Please join us next week. I would like to thank Matt for showing up for this. It's been a pleasure having you, brother. It's been a very entertaining talking to you. Your points brought up. That's something sometimes Ruben hesitates to throw it out there, but with your encouragement, he got some stabs himself in there, which I appreciate. Maybe that will continue from his part without your support. But I like these 2-on-1 with all of your intellectual superiority over me with my third language, which is English. Trying to debate through and get the point across, which I tried my best. If I failed, I apologize, but that was my take. Sorry.
That was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, man, for coming in. We'll make sure to bring you along another.
Any last words,
movie.
Matt, from your experience today?
No, I'm sorry, but I wish, and I feel like this is the real reason you don't like 1917. Was that they glossed over the Russian Revolution. No mention of it. Sorry.
That's probably why.
And the bullets fly. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you so much. So stay tuned next week. We'll be talking about In Bruges. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you can follow us. We are available in all your favorite podcast stations: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, whichever you prefer. And then, like I said, just follow us, like us, catch up with our latest other episodes, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in.